And the 5 minutes now first to the start of the Formula 1 Australia Grand Prix here down the track. And you can sense the anticipation, you can sense the energy, you can certainly sense the nerves, and I'm sure the grandstand.
Hello everybody and welcome to Formula 1 2007, which is very different in feel from what we had last year. Michael Schumacher is gone and everyone's frankly had to grow up a little bit to fill the gap he's left. The sport's biggest name, Fernando Alonso, is just 25 years old now, and we have a lot of new faces on the grid, some very exciting new talent with 7 different makes of cars in the top 10. It's also a good indicator that this season should be a terrific show. Certainly starting very well here in Melbourne, a beautiful sunny day, terrific crowd as always. This place always does Formula 1 proud every time we come here. There's also a lot to shout about from a British perspective this year. We have 4 British drivers on the grid, including Anthony Davidson, who's qualified the Super Aguri Honda in 11th place, and of course Lewis Hamilton, who really has been the centre of attention all weekend. There is something of a star in that boy, just the way he carries himself, his whole demeanour, and of course his performance on the track has been nothing less than sensational. The 22-year-old from Stevenage has kept his illustrious teammate Alonso very honest all weekend, and the Spaniard really had to pull out all the stops to beat him in qualifying. The margin just 2 100ths of a second between them on their low fuel Banzai laps. That gives you an indication of the kind of level that Lewis Hamilton has come in at. But we really do have to keep our feet on the ground and manage expectations. He is only starting his first ever Grand Prix, and Martin, you've driven in 158 Grand Prix. They're long, hard races, an hour and a half of racing, very, very different from anything someone like Lewis would have done before, and there really is no substitute for experience, is there, in feeling your way and understanding how a Grand Prix unfolds.
You can do simulated Grand Prix at a test day, but often when you stop they wheel you back into the pit garage and check things over, and then you go and do the equivalent of the next stint. But of course you're never under that pressure, and you don't go to the start line and start with 21 other cars. You leave the pits, do a simulated start, and then just go on your own merry way, sometimes with only you on the racetrack. So he will have done many, as I say, simulated race distances, but then it's not the same as doing a Grand Prix itself. But I have to say, I haven't seen anything in Lewis's driving so far this weekend that suggests he's on the ragged edge. Has he really got a car that will do 58 good and solid laps? We'll find out. And there's a lot of uncertainties down there on the grid with tyre choice. It's warm, very, very warm out there today compared to the free running in Friday and Saturday. And I think there'll be a few people with some cars that are working, and a few that are going to be absolutely horrified when they get going and wonder how they've ended up with such a difficult car to drive after so much setting up.
You'll have noticed there as the grid crawler went through, Felipe Massa starting this race from the back of the grid. He had a difficult time in qualifying, a gearbox problem, which meant that he qualified down in 15th place only, and then he decided to change an engine quite late on, about 11:30 this morning, so not long before the start of this Grand Prix. So all kinds of dramas. Ferrari's then bookending the grid. This is your pole sitter, Kimi Raikkonen, his first outing for the prancing horse, the man who has replaced Michael Schumacher, and you know, he's the ideal person to do that. Obviously the speed is a given, he is phenomenally quick, but he just doesn't give a monkey's about anything, and really the only person who could have replaced a 7-time world champion is someone who just flicks cares off his back like water off a duck's back. This is the man who's going to challenge him for the championship this year, Fernando Alonso. First time he's stood on the front row of the grid here in Melbourne. He won the race here last year, but he's never been on the front row before. And there at the back is Felipe Massa, who was deeply frustrated yesterday in qualifying, and who can blame him? He had the form. He was in front of Raikkonen throughout winter testing and in the practice sessions here in Melbourne, but the luck has not gone his way, and he's already given away quite a bit to his teammate in their inter-team battle for the title.
He may well not have had a specific engine failure as such. They would you've got to use an engine for two 2 consecutive Saturdays and Sundays of a Grand Prix weekend, and he may have elected to take the penalty from 16th back to 22nd just to basically have a fresher engine in Malaysia at the next Grand Prix, which is well known to be very, very tough on engines. So could be a strategic move there. But we'll watch Massa. He's much, much faster than the cars around him.
Away they go then on their parade lap. We're getting news from our... Whoa, that's a lot of smoke coming out of one of the cars there. It's probably an overfill on the oil tank, but we're getting news from the pits that most of the front runners are starting on the harder tyre, but that Nick Heidfeld in the BMW, third on the grid, is starting on the softer tyre. One of the big differences this year in Formula 1 is a new rule which we'll all have to get used to as the season unfolds. Bridgestone is the only tyre supplier now. We no longer have a tyre war between Michelin and Bridgestone, so Bridgestone have brought along 2 different types of tyre to every Grand Prix. There's a hard tyre and a soft tyre, and the idea is that there's a performance difference between them. Generally speaking, the teams will qualify on the soft tyre, but they have to use both types of tyre during the Grand Prix. Now, this is likely to be a 2-stop race, so there'll be 3 stints basically. What everyone has to work out is whether or not they should use hard or soft tyres and when to use them. There's a quick look at Trulli and that smoke that came out of the back of his car as he got away from the line. We'll talk more about the tyres as the race unfolds, but clearly BMW are feeling ambitious and they're going for the softer tyre from the start.
Suggests he's light on fuel as well, because my understanding is after about 5 laps those soft tyres are not the tyres to be on. I'm expecting a more normal race strategy to be 2 long runs on the harder tyre, which is initially slower but just hangs on much, much better. They all went to the end of the pit lane before they went to the grid and did a practice start. Truly's Toyota pumped a lot of oily blue smoke out as well. What I did notice was the Renault appeared to have an electric start, a brilliant getaway. Okay, well, if you saw our technical pieces last year,
launch 5.
that is now they've got data from the car. After Mark Webber has done a practice start off the dummy grid, they've now fed him in an electronic setting on his steering wheel that they think will give him the best getaway from his brilliant 7th place on the grid.
Well, we've got 4 rookies in the field, and one of them, as I said, is Lewis Hamilton. And the first major obstacle for all the runners, whether they be rookies or experienced drivers, is the notorious first corner here at Albert Park. It's claimed many victims over the years. In fact, we have more years when there is a first lap accident than years when there isn't. And last year we had 4 safety cars here. It's always an eventful race. I'm told by some of the team engineers there's a 56% likelihood that at some point in this race we'll get a safety car. So the point is, it's a tough race to come through unscathed.
It is, but remember last year, so we'll keep an eye on his start down there at Renault. But this race really, I think, should be, Raikkonen should have it very much under control. We're expecting the early stages, and I can't help but feel Alonso will be looking more in his mirrors at Lewis Hamilton than he will be at Kimi Raikkonen, but we'll find out shortly.
The Melbourne specialist Giancarlo Fisichella makes his way to the grid. A winner here a couple of years ago. Last year started on the front row. He's starting 6th here today. Renault just taking a little step back from being the world champion team of the last 2 years. McLaren there, Ron Dennis the boss, have taken a step forward. So too have BMW. Ferrari look very strong as well. It really is going to be a thrilling season. There is the BMW boss Mario Tyson. He's steering them towards the front of the grid with every week that passes. There's the new Ferrari boss, Stefano Domenicali. And everyone lining up. You can see Raikkonen on the right, Alonso on the left, with his teammate Hamilton behind him. And behind Raikkonen on the right-hand side is Nick Heidfeld. We'll have 5 red lights when they go out. The 2007 Formula 1 World Championship will be go! Nice start by both the McLarens. Look at Kubica attacking Hamilton. We've got yellow flags at the back. Hamilton's had some manners put on him by Kubica, but he comes round the outside. He's also gone round Alonso. Stunning start by Lewis Hamilton up into 3rd place. Raikkonen pulls away. Heidfeld's after him. Alonso now has to get past Hamilton. What an amazing amazingly composed start by Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, Hamilton got blocked off by Kubica, so he said, OK, I'll have a go around the outside then. And as they tripped over each other on the inside, he just took advantage beautifully. So pretty clean getaway then. Bit fraught in the tail end of the field, and everybody is away. Button, it looks like, sort of maintained. He's up to 13th actually.
Raikkonen leads, Heidfeld is second, Hamilton is third, Alonso is fourth, fifth is Kubica, sixth is Fisichella, seventh Mark Webber, eighth Ralf Schumacher, ninth Sato, as Giano Ciolli puts a move on Takuma Sato.
Yeah, disadvantaged himself by hanging on to a lost cause there, but nonetheless he's still on track and drops back down to 10th place. Raikkonen
filled in a couple of races for Minardi a few years ago, basically a test driver at Honda for the last 5 seasons. He's finally got a race seat, made a dream start in qualifying with 11th on the grid. I wonder if that's what the yellow flags were all about we saw at the start, but certainly Davidson in trouble, down in 21st place, and Felipe Massa, who started this race 22nd and last, is already up into 18th place.
Did I hear Anthony Davidson tell Louise earlier on in the programme that he had a problem getting out of the pit garage, so we think he just didn't get off the line, but he is now up and running. Button still 13th. Coulthard's made his way up to 16th from 19th on the grid, but meanwhile Raikkonen leads by 1.5 seconds from Heidfeld, who we understand is on the softer tyre, and I'm very surprised if he is using that strategy.
Riding on board the McLaren, I believe of Fernando Alonso. Yes, it is the fastest man on the track at the moment. Just set the fastest first sector of anybody. Be interesting to see how this unfolds now, if Hamilton is holding him up, or if they're running at the same sort of pace as the next few laps unfold. Down through the back straight now, heading down towards turn 13.
Happy person after qualifying, despite being on the front row of the grid. He'll be even less happy now, staring at the back of Lewis Hamilton.
He was compromised by some problems in free practice with a fuel pump.
And this is Hamilton running very wide, taking a bit of air there. Oh, that's the first mistake we've seen this weekend, and Alonso was there to witness it. Hamilton, turn 14, getting away with it. Did he do any damage to the left front wing end fence that runs very low? The car actually lifting into the air.
Lap 7 of the Australian Grand Prix from Albert Park in Melbourne, the opening round of the 2007 World Championship. Riding on board there with Felipe Massa down in 15th place. Raikkonen's leading, Heidfeld second. Lewis Hamilton is in third place ahead of teammate and world champion Fernando Alonso. But just a moment ago, Martin, Hamilton making really his first mistake of the whole weekend, just running wide there.
Yeah, the front tongue of the undertray would have hit the end of the curve and it just lifted the whole car into the air. Fernando Alonso right behind him to witness that. Cloud of dust coming up, but it looks as if Lewis, especially with the latest regulations, the front wings are quite high off the ground, and I think he'll get away with that. It would have sent a bit of a shock up his spine, I can tell you.
Well, he's recovered pretty tidily. That last lap after that was a 1:28.0. His fastest lap of the race so far, and a full half second quicker than teammate Alonso. But at the front, Kimi Raikkonen showing the kind of pace that we all know he has. Just set the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:27.075. He is a second a lap faster at the moment than the McLarens at this stage of the race.
I think Barrichello will be getting a little bit heated inside the cockpit of that Honda. I think it is clear that Jensen is quite a bit slower than him, and he's holding up the second Honda car now, who's about to come under big pressure from Massa, who must be very full of fuel. He's not making his way through the pack at this stage that we expected.
But of course, when the cars come in for their first round of pit stops, most people will be two-stopping, certainly of the mid 1:29. So the Works Honda, the new car, is a second a lap slower than last year's Honda in the form of the Super Aguri out on the track with Sato. Meanwhile, Anthony Davidson in the other car is still circulating, but he's last place, 22nd, 50 seconds now behind the race leader.
On a standard lap, Hamilton's 4/10ths faster than Alonso. Pretty much every lap except the one where he made a mistake. And in fact, he only lost 4/10ths on that lap. This is the view. His engineers said, we're working on it. That doesn't mean to say the other side of the pit wall, the other Honda pit wall, is going to capitulate. And Coulthard then is gamely hanging on to the lot of them.
Well, they are being dropped by 12th place Nico Rosberg. Rosberg is lapping 1.2 seconds a lap faster than this train that's developing behind Jenson Button, so it clearly is the case that Button's car on the day is not up to the speed of Barrichello's, and as you say, I imagine the Rubens will be getting a little bit het up. He's now the most experienced driver in the Formula One field, Rubens Barrichello. He's been around a very long time. This is his 234th Grand Prix start. Only Riccardo Patrese and Michael Schumacher have started more races than Rubens Barrichello. On board with Massa. A lot of rebuilding work to do, and his morale really after his setback in qualifying. This Ferrari though, Martin, you have to say, all the onboard shots throughout the weekend, it's just so easy to drive, doesn't it?
No, they're way ahead at the moment, it seems, even more than
that Alonso has. And someone's off the racetrack. That looks like the spiker of Christian Albers. So he looks like he's made contact with the barriers there. Albers was running in 20th place.
Don't know who chooses the colour. That's turn 6. He's quite a long way off the track. Don't think they'll feel the need for a safety car in there, but who chooses the colour to paint the gravel? Doesn't seem to match anything else, does it? He dropped it under braking and, well, straight to the scene of the accident. I don't think they'll need anything other than some waved yellows to pull that out of the wall and away into a little service road.
That's turn 14. You and I saw Tony Oliuzzi lose it there on Friday afternoon, and that's the corner where Lewis Hamilton ran wide just a few laps ago as well. It's a tricky little corner, that, isn't it?
I think it's turn 6. I'm pretty sure it's this one here, turn 6, but we'll see. Somebody's off the road at turn 3, it says on the computer, which is car 21 of Albers, so we'll wait and see where we think that one is.
Beautiful Melbourne skyline in the background. Yellow flags out for the incident involving Christian Albers. We're taking a look then at, well, we were briefly at Nick Heidfeld in the BMW Sauber, going still very strongly on these softer tyres. It'll be very interesting to see what tyres everyone opts for at the first round of pit stops. We're expecting the cars to start coming in around about lap 18, but certainly most of the front runners in the early 20s. As we ride on board then with the Honda. Raikkonen leading by almost 10 seconds now from Heidfeld. Hamilton still third. Alonso is fourth. The first time really this race that he's turned a faster race lap than Lewis Hamilton. So 2 seconds the margin between those two. Kubica fifth and Fisichella is in 6th place. Still this train then behind Jenson Button, 13th, 14th, 15th and 16th places. Button, Barrichello, Massa. This is not doing Massa's race effort much good at all. He's carrying quite a bit of fuel. He's going to go at least halfway in this race. Meanwhile, Mark Webber, as you can see there on the graphic, going strongly, still in 7th place. Very encouraging for him and for the Red Bull team. There's a lot of speed in that car. I don't think they expect it to be quite so competitive at this early in the season. Lap 14 of the Australian Grand Prix. You're riding on board with an increasingly frustrated Felipe Massa. It all went wrong for him yesterday in qualifying with a gearbox problem that meant he qualified 15th. He then changed an engine this morning, and under the rules of Formula One, if you change an engine before the race, you have to drop 10 places on the grid. So he started 22nd. He's got a car that's fat with fuel, and he's having some trouble making his way through the field, and he's been tucked up behind Jenson Button, Rubens Barrichello and Felipe Massa and Jensen Button and Rubens Barrichello for quite some time, and just not getting through them at all. But just behind him is David Coulthard, who he's also getting pretty frustrated. Here's Ralf Schumacher and Jarno Trulli, 8th and 9th. And Martin, no one was really expecting this kind of performance from the Toyotas after the winter testing. They didn't look very quick, they didn't look very reliable, everyone was writing them off. They were writing themselves off in the pre-season previews, and here they are both solidly in the top 10.
Yeah, I'm told there was
structures in place for this year to make the drivers more safe in the cockpit, and a number of other things as well. Here's the perspective of Jarno Trulli on Fisichella coming out of the pits right in front of him, and really there was nowhere for Trulli to go, and Fisichella holds the place. So Fisichella is in 8th place behind Ralf Schumacher.
That's beautifully done by Fisichella. He didn't risk his car too much and just squeezed them clean, squeezed Trulli clean off the road. So very much precision driving there from Giancarlo Fisichella.
Robert Kubica pitting from 4th place in the BMW there. This is lap 22 of the Grand Prix. Still no sign of the McLaren crew getting ready for Lewis Hamilton or Fernando Alonso. I'll tell you something, there was only 0.2 of a second between those two drivers in final qualifying carrying the fuel. And it'd be interesting to see which of them carried the more fuel in qualifying, because obviously every extra kilo you carry slows you down a little bit more.
Understeer. So, in other words,
you 2 clicks for front wing.
I was going to suggest 2 clicks of front wing.
You're a genius.
But or they might just reduce the front tyre pressures as well. So he's clearly getting ready for a stop, and so are the McLaren team. Which one is it for? And it's for Alonso. Alonso pits first. Hamilton was, and 10 is down there.
And it's a new set of hard tyres going onto it, Martin, which is interesting, because you would think that if Alonso wanted to use these laps on new tyres to try and get past Lewis Hamilton, he'd be doing it on the soft, but McLaren keeping the soft tyre to the last stint.
Well, pinch yourself if you're struggling to believe this, but Lewis Hamilton, 22 years old, on his Grand Prix debut, has not only kept his 2-time world champion teammate honest throughout practice and in qualifying, but it turns out he was carrying more fuel in qualifying as well, and that is an amazing effort from him. I want to keep my feet firmly on the ground and really manage expectations here, because it's a long, long way to go, and one swallow doesn't make a summer, but nevertheless, Hamilton is doing a stunning job here on his first ever Grand Prix. We understand from our F1 ITV pit crew that Hamilton is going to pit at the end of this lap, as we take a look at the race leader having a little trouble getting past a spiker. That's Adrian Sutt was chasing it really from Friday afternoon onwards. Didn't qualify, didn't feel comfortable in qualifying, qualified outside the top 10, and he's now running in 8th place and starting to pick the pace up a little bit. He is 4 seconds only behind Giancarlo Fisichella, so as the race unfolds, Kovalainen is starting to come into his own a bit.
Lewis is just leaving no margin. Turn 11 and 12, Alonso is a metre away from the wall. Lewis is just trading the tyre paint, the Bridgestone tyre paint with it. He is so confident. I just hope he's not overconfident. That's supreme driving. Alonso then 3rd, Kubica, whatever you like to call him, is 4th, Heidfeld 5th. They're pretty nip and tuck now. They've both stopped, the BMWs, and Heidfeld's paid quite a big price for that early stop and going with the softer tyres. I always thought it was a bit of a strange decision, that one. Button 12th, Coulthard 13th. They're just 3/4 of a second. We're not even to half distance yet. Long way to go. Raikkonen's lead before the pit stops, we know, was 15.0 seconds. It's now 11.7. So the McLaren have been eating into that. But they're all lapping now about the same pace.
So Hamilton led 5 laps of this Grand Prix after Kimi Raikkonen made the stop. That's the fastest lap classification so far. He was a McLaren test driver for many years, and there he is, just having a toe-to-toe with Jarno Trulli. And Trulli squeezing through. Between Raikkonen and Hamilton in second place is 12 seconds. Alonso a couple of seconds behind. Kubica is 4th. Heidfeld is 5th. BMW's then 4th and 5th here. 6th is Fisichella. 7th Kovalainen. And 8th, the Williams of Nico Rosberg. Ted Kravitz, we understand Jenson Button made a stop a couple of laps ago. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, and he put on the soft tyres, James, as Felipe Massa in the Ferrari just comes in behind me, and let's see what he's putting in there. And I believe Jenson Button's under investigation by the stewards, James. I'll let you clear that one up, but he put on the soft tyres, Jenson, and he short-filled the car, so this is going to be a quick stint.
Okay, Massa had a 23-second margin over Ralf Schumacher. It's not, there is the Toyota, I believe, going through, so he's lost that place. He's going to feed in behind Kovalainen. Felipe Massa is up into 10th place then, having started 22nd on the grid.
Speeding in the pit lane for Jenson Button, which at least the Honda's fast down the pit lane today, but unfortunately that'll mean he's got to drop by another time, so it'll be a drive through.
It's going to be a finish a long, long way from the points for Jenson Button. Felipe Massa, though, is certainly staking a claim here for a points finish after a disastrous qualifying session. He cannot afford to give away too many points early on this season to his teammate Kimi Raikkonen, because one of the secrets in Formula One is never ever give anything away. It was one of Michael Schumacher's absolute mantras. And you have to go out and make things happen for yourself in Formula One. Raikkonen seems to be able to do it.
We've got a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane. We're just checking the data.
Answer came there, none.
Yeah. Car off the road, Toro Rosso.
I think that's Scott Speed, isn't it? The American driver who only got the nod that he was actually driving this season a few weeks before the start of this Grand Prix season, and he's a bit frustrated by that. Gerhard Berger, the boss of Toro Rosso, really hanging him out to dry and questioning his commitment, but finally deciding to go with the American driver. And well, they're just getting used to this car. They only got it very recently. They don't know very much about it, and they've had very, very little pre-season testing with it. So it's going to be a long, long, hard season, I think, for the Toro Rosso drivers. There is the Williams of Nico Rosberg in 8th place at the moment, hassling Ralf Schumacher. I mentioned earlier it's 13 races since the Williams team scored a World Championship point, as Button comes in to serve that drive-through penalty.
He just coasts through. You can't stop for tyres or fuel or anything. You just have to go through at 50 miles an hour and go out the other end. So it costs you in total about 20 seconds. It varies from circuit to circuit depending on the length of the pit lane and how fast the pit straight is, that goes so that the speed you're missing, if you like, that you're not able to take advantage of. Raikkonen's got his lead up to 17 seconds now. We've not seen much of the McLarens recently, and here we go. But I can only assume they've been through a bit of traffic. But the gap back to Alonso from Hamilton now up to 2 seconds. It's yo-yoing around, but as I say, I think they've probably been through some traffic.
Yeah, they're lapping within a 1/10 of a second of each other.
It's a cracking battle going on out there. Kubica 4th, Heidfeld 5th. Half a second adrift, obviously both in the BMWs. So it's pretty much as we thought, isn't it? The Ferraris have got the edge on pace, McLaren are fast, and BMW's just behind them. Fisichella 45 seconds behind now, behind Raikkonen. We're on lap 33. So Renault not having a stellar afternoon. Kovalainen is 9th after his disappointing qualifying. So he's moving forward at least.
Well, we've got 4 Brits in the field, as I mentioned. One of them's at the front. He is in the Ferrari. Didn't endear himself to the Italians. That hasn't worked for him. He's dropped back down to 5th place behind his teammate Robert Kubica, who qualified 5th. So Kubica moving forward, Heidfeld moving backwards. The other Brits, well, they've all been lapped. I think Kubica's slowing down, is he?
Yeah. Yeah. Kubica with a problem. How many times do we hear them having to just chivvy Fisichella along? And maybe it's just coincidence how we get those the radio call there, but he's 14 seconds behind Heidfeld. It'll be some kind of stellar lap he's got to put in to take Heidfeld, but at least Fisichella now moves up to P5 with Kubica's problem. Heidfeld up to P4. Fizzy, I guess, still... Ooh, that's coming in a bit deep. Wonder what happened there. There we go. And
that's the battle between Rosberg and Ralf Schumacher that has been brewing for some time. We saw Scott Speed retiring a moment ago. Louise has found him.
Did you have to park it for technical reasons, Scott, or was it just an off?
Well, yeah, when the right front tyre explodes and you go straight.
It wasn't a Raikkonen lapping Massa. Massa with clear. He's got 4 seconds in front of him to Kovalainen. But as soon as the leader gets within the blue flag zone, you have to lift off and let him through. Kubica has made it back to the pits, but he was running in a very strong 4th place. Why is Massa running so slowly? Hamilton has got the lead of Raikkonen down now to just 15.6 seconds, and Alonso just about hanging on to the back of Hamilton. This is not all over yet.
Yeah, Massa on a one-stop strategy, we believe, so carrying quite a bit more fuel at this stage of the race than the other cars, certainly the front runners who are on 2 stoppers. It will bring him out towards the front of the field, Massa. Kimi Raikkonen just set the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:26.1, pushing very hard. He backed off a little bit, but now he's suddenly turned the wick up, and that was the lap on which he lapped Massa, so he's not wasting any time, is he?
That's the replay, isn't it, of him lapping, and Massa is obliged under the rules and under team rules as well to get out of the way as Heidfeld pits from 4th place.
Well, he pitted 6 laps before Giancarlo Fisichella last time round, and they put a similar amount of fuel in the car, so that's what the engineer was referring to. Fisichella 16 seconds though behind. I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle for him to take Heidfeld at this stage. There is the Super Aguri. We've got Anthony Davidson out there. He is down in 18th place, having qualified 11th, but went to the back of the field at the start, and then had a tangle as well with another car out on the track. So it's not been a great start for Anthony Davidson. David Coulthard is in 14th place in the Red Bull, and Jenson Button is having a weekend to forget in the Honda. The car not really under him in the early stages of this Grand Prix. He's a lap down in 16th place, and he's also had a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So last year's pole sitter Jenson Button not having such a great time here this year. Ted Kravitz, what you got for us?
You're just talking about David Coulthard. I went down to Red Bull. They're generally pleased with the car's reliability, if not the pace, and disappointed that Webber couldn't stay up as high as his grid position. But just one thing on DC's car, the hydraulically operated fuel flap is stuck open, so that won't be doing the aerodynamics any good.
Thanks for that, Ted. Yeah, I don't know if Webber had a problem on one of his pit starts, but he was running 7th and just suddenly disappeared down into the teens, but we didn't see it on screen. Raikkonen, I think he's definitely backing off Raikkonen. Remember, these race engines have got to do the Saturday and Sunday of Malaysia as well in 3 weeks' time, and unless they're going to take a penalty, a 10-drop penalty. So if anything he can save on the life of the engine, he will do so to give him an even better chance in Malaysia.
Well, it's interesting because Raikkonen just set the 2 fastest laps of the race so far, and now, as you say, he calmed it down a bit before that. 2 absolute flyers, and now he's calmed it down again, and he's lapping at exactly the same pace, a mid 1:26, as Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso behind him. The gap between Hamilton in 2nd place and Alonso 3rd remains at 2 seconds. We have 19 laps to go, and really it'll come down to the final pit stops and who carries the most fuel between Hamilton and Alonso as to whether the 22-year-old can beat the double world champion on his debut. Certainly everything. Whoa, a big spin there from the Renault of Kovalainen. He's kept the engine going though.
Did he lose a place? He did. He lost a place to Felipe Massa. So Kovalainen continuing his disappointing weekend, and then he's got the Toyota of Trulli, and little Sato will be right in there as well. Yes, he is indeed. So Kovalainen under a lot of pressure. Barrichello pits the Honda from 14th.
Still 18th.
And 3rd place, unless I have a reliability issue. Hamilton is losing a little bit to Alonso now, just 1.3 seconds between them, and that is how Kovalainen lost it on turn in to turn 1. Unusual to see a Formula 1 car spin as easily as that. What's that all about? I think Kovalainen was as surprised as anybody else, and Louise, as just as Raikkonen does a 1:25.2, just smashes the opposition. Louise has found Robert Kubica.
Robert, some kind of gearbox problem, I understand?
Yeah. it was going worse and worse straight away after beginning of the race, and then suddenly I stuck on the 5th gear, and that was end of the race.
Such a strong weekend up until that.
Yeah, it was going really good. My strategy was, I think, really good. Last stint would be very short, so I would be very quick in the end of the race, but I was able to do same lap times as Nick, and I was much heavier, so yeah, it was good performance, but you know, results is in the end.
Thanks, Robert.
Let's talk about Nico Rosberg. He's up to 6th place. We've barely seen him. He's driving an absolute stormer. He's doing the same pace as the McLarens. He's 82 seconds off the lead, but he's driving beautifully. Car's flying now. Verts in the other Williams is back down in 15th and lapping quite slowly. Obviously a bit of a problem going on there with Alex, but Nico Rosberg is absolutely flying.
Well, they only started 3 places apart on the grid. Rosberg was 12th and Verts was 15th, so as you say, he's driving very well. Heikki Kovalainen getting a little bit ragged there. We saw him spinning a couple of laps ago, and now he's picking up some grass, but as you say, Rosberg doing a good job. We saw him passing Ralf Schumacher as the race leader comes into the pits. He's now almost 10 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher in just a few laps, so yeah, we'll keep an eye on Rosberg as the race leader pits.
The one thing we did see was Rosberg doing that stunning move on Ralf Schumacher. Wouldn't mind seeing that one again. That was we were happy to be on board with that one. Incredibly brave move. But Raikkonen then, a lot of traffic out there, and there go the 2 McLarens. They've got to pit again, but Raikkonen can see the enemy.
They certainly can. They're a pit stop apart then. And that really is a reassuring sign for Kimi Raikkonen. He'll be delighted about that. He left the McLaren team last year for pastures new. Actually signed the contract with Ferrari back in July of 2005. There was a lot of rumours going around that he was going to be going to Ferrari, but no one was absolutely sure until certainly most of the way through last season. But that was the intention from a long way off for Kimi Raikkonen to move to Ferrari and replace Michael Schumacher.
Now, if I was right, as the 2 McLarens come up to a lot of traffic, if I was right and Alonso did take on more fuel than Hamilton, then he can run longer. He may just leapfrogging. We'll have a look. It's just a feeling I had, but it felt like Alonso was stationary longer than Lewis, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I think he probably would have to, really, because he certainly doesn't want to...
Being the race leader, no help whatsoever. Now he's offline. He's pitted, in fact. Hamilton has had to pit before Alonso. I was right. And he's slow into the pits as well, following that traffic. That worked out. We've got a spinner in the pit lane, at the far end of the pit lane as well. Somebody's gone off coming into the pits. Ted's down there.
But it's not Lewis Hamilton, and these are the soft tyres going on for the final stint. But Lewis is in exactly the same position as Fernando Alonso. Alonso will be in about a lap's time, and he will put on the soft tyres as well, and the gap, it was 1.2 seconds in that lap.
It wasn't, Ted, unfortunately, because of Sato. The gap was completely eradicated, and I think that almost certainly will hand the position to Fernando Alonso. He will know what's happened. His engineer will tell him to push like mad, and that's a big problem, I think, for Lewis Hamilton. One would expect that Alonso will take the place away from him when he makes his pit stop.
Now, apparently, these soft tyres are really quick. They use them for qualifying, but fall away by a second on the 2nd lap and a further second slower on the 3rd lap. So he's got a long way. He's got 15 laps to do on these tyres, although if we're right about Heidfeld, then he made them last 15 laps at the beginning of the race. But he's got a clear track, crucially, Lewis, and he's got to absolutely nail it, because I'm sure Alonso at the moment has got the upper hand here. He can run longer. Did Alonso get caught up in any further traffic? But Lewis has some fresh air, and he can recover this. There was a spinner in the pit lane. It was Mark Webber for Red Bull.
Luckily for him, it righted itself and ended up pointing in the right direction. Mark Webber down in 15th place now, having been 7th in the early stages. There's Barrichello passing Sato. Those 2 battling over 12th place. And there is the world champion, Fernando Alonso, going through to start yet another lap. So he had at least 1 more lap of fuel. It looks like he had 2.
Depends how fast Alonso's done his personal best first sector. Depends how much longer he can go.
Well, going 2 laps longer on a light car must be in Alonso's favour, as Fisichella pits. Also pitting from 18th place, the Honda of Jenson Button. And there you can see that car just at the background. The McLaren mechanics, you see those white overalls up in the pit lane. They are ready for Fernando Alonso, who's leading this Grand Prix at the moment by 5 seconds from Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen will take the lead back, obviously, when Alonso pits. And the crucial question will be who will finish second out of Alonso and Hamilton. That will be the main focus really when Alonso makes the stop.
Hamilton's 0.5 of a second slower on this current lap as well. Alonso pits. I think he's going to just have it if it's a quick stop, because his stop will be even quicker than Lewis. He's got to put 2 laps less of fuel on board, and there he goes. Alonso away. Well, surely he's going to come out in front of Lewis Hamilton, or is he? Yeah, Lewis Hamilton's only just coming into the pit straight. Alonso's done enough there. Just taking on that little bit of extra fuel mid-race has made all the difference. There's the experience and the wisdom of a double world champion and his crew, of course.
Absolutely right. Of course, they are in the same team. The engineers would know what they're doing, but Alonso would have, and his engineer would have worked together on that one. It's generally an advantage to run a little bit longer on the fuel in Formula 1, because obviously you've got those extra laps at the end with a very light car to make the difference. But let's not forget, he got badly held up by Takuma Sato as well, and lost at least 1.2, 1.3 seconds behind him, and that contributed as well.
Unquestionably, he was really unlucky. Really unlucky, but it's a funny feeling, you know. You're driving like a lunatic. You have a brilliant pit stop, and suddenly a car appears in front of you. And you're like, how did that happen? That doesn't seem possible. I've just lost a place. I didn't even see the car. It's a really strange feeling when cars emerge in front of you out of the pit lane, and you spend the next half lap trying to understand why. It's lap 46. Kimi Raikkonen leads from Fernando Alonso by 11.4 seconds. Schumacher pitted from P10. Oh, what's this? Kimi Raikkonen way too deep into turn 3. What was that all about? And slow through turn 5, adjusting the brake balance. What's going on with Raikkonen? He's lost 2 seconds in the first sector, so I think he just outbraked himself down into turn 3, and then he's
placed him at Williams. And well, we've got 17 races this year in the championship. Coulthard's first 17 races back in the mid-90s yielded 5 podiums and 1 pole position. You and I were talking about this the other day. I reckon that's a realistic target for Hamilton in his first season, and certainly, judging by the way he's performed here this weekend, a more than realistic target.
I haven't seen anything of Lewis Hamilton's performance this weekend that suggests anything other than some kind of brilliant career ahead of him in Formula 1. Coulthard up to P12 now. He's just pitted. He's ahead of Webber. Somehow we saw Webber spinning in the pit lane. They're up in the Coulthard Museum up in Twynham. They'll be enjoying that one. At least he's coming through the pack after an absolutely disastrous qualifying yesterday afternoon. But Raikkonen lap 50, and that is Sutil going off, they say, in the spiker. That turn 14. Tricky corner there. It tightens on the exit. He's catching people out. You're going off before you realise it, and then it's too late to do anything about it.
We've got 19 cars still running in this Grand Prix. We've lost Kubica and Scott Speed and Christian Albers. Just 3 retirements then. Kimi Raikkonen leading by 14 seconds from Alonso. Hamilton 3rd. Heidfeld in 4th place. 5th is Fisichella as Coulthard puts a huge move up the inside of Wurz and takes them both out. And what was that all about?
What that was all about was DC coming from pretty deep, you have to say, a long way back. Wurz just had no idea he's coming. He's gone across the cockpit of Wurz, but DC came from a long way back on that one, and inevitably they met on the apex of the corner.
So we've not had a safety car this year, despite the fact we've had plenty over the years, and there was a 56% probability of it, according to the engineering geniuses down in the pit lane. There is Christian Horner, rather rueful look on his face, as the highly experienced David Coulthard sailed one up the inside in a very speculative fashion, and that was a battle over 13th place. So Raikkonen, Alonso, Hamilton, the top 3. Heidfeld 4th, 5th is Fisichella, 6th is Felipe Massa, but I've got a hunch that he's going to catch Fisichella before the end of the race, and here's the incident again.
Yeah, it wasn't as far back as I first thought, actually. And I think because DC was quite a long way right, he may not have appeared in Alex Wurtz's mirror. Now, he was coming in, he would have expected Wurz to spot that one, but he didn't. And there you go. That's how it works out. I think Alex will be actually nasty. That was scary stuff, just flying across the cockpit there. Coulthard's really flagged up. I'm going to try and overtake you. And every time I see that, I get a little bit more scared for both of them, particularly Alex Wirtz. But no, I think David felt he'd flagged that one up. We're going to do some features on overtaking later this year. Ironically, using the Williams, and that one of Alex Wirtz there taking quite a bit of damage. Not as much as Coulthard's minding his own business, turning into turn 3.
Yeah, it's inches away from Wirtz's head though, a flying Formula One car. As you say, every time you look at it, it gets a little bit more scary. There's the race leader crossing the line, just 7 laps to go. And he's lapped everybody up to, including 7th place man Nico Rosberg. Felipe Massa, his teammate, is 6th, and the gap is coming down by 2 seconds a lap to Fisichella. It's going to be a grandstand finish between those two for 5th place. Hamilton, he's pretty comfortable in 3rd place. Looks like he's turned the engine. Nick Heidfeld 25 seconds behind Hamilton, so a long way off.
Yeah, the story now is, as you say, James, Fisichella 5th, Massa 6th. Massa's on a 1-stop, trying to just make the best of a bad job from starting last on the grid. He just wants to go home from here with as many points as he can collect, and I suspect he's about to collect a few more. Fisichella will be getting the hurry up. Hamilton doesn't like that is Alex Wirtz then. Is it down in the same corner, or is that just a replay of him getting away after the initial accident?
It looks very similar to me. Wirtz now circulating down in fact he's retired down in, he's 18th place. It was shown on the computer, but it's now telling us that he's stopped, so Wirtz is out of the race. We're riding on board with Kovalainen in 10th place, going off again. Having a fairly erratic time in this Grand Prix, and let's get some more news from Ted Kravitz.
Yeah, you were talking about Kimi Räikkönen having a little wobble and playing around with the brake balance bar. There are definitely a few gremlins creeping into the Ferrari machine. Chris Dyer, his engineer, has been off.
Going to take 5th place, and Massa P6 from P22 on the grid.
Plucky drive by both men. Fisichella from 6th on the grid, and a car that clearly wasn't quite as quick as he would have liked it. Massa on a 1-stop strategy, different from the rest of the field, certainly the front runners anyway. And well, he got points today, 3 points in fact, but he's given away 7 to his teammate and championship rival Kimi Räikkönen. Well, we've had some strong performances.
Great job, great job. Kimi, well done. Congratulations. Fantastic start. Thank you.
Jean Todt there, the team boss of Ferrari.
Perfect race. We said yesterday was a perfect start to the season, and this is the perfect next step. Fantastic job. Well done.
That was Chris Dyer, his race engineer. And Kimi's keeping his thoughts to himself. So, McLaren has its youngest ever driver lineup. They have come through in 2nd and 3rd place. Lewis Hamilton has got a podium on his debut. Plenty for Ted Kravitz to talk about with Ron Dennis.
Absolutely, and the story of the day, Ron, as far as we're concerned, Lewis's performance today.
Pretty good, wasn't it? No, he did a good job. A really good job. Very disciplined race, and the strategy favoured a little bit Fernando, so Fernando was just being patient, but can't take anything away from Lewis. He did an outstanding first Grand Prix, and he really deserved the 3rd place.
I bet you feel a bit proud, don't you?
Yeah, I could say that.
And a bit of a lump in the throat as well.
Yeah, a little bit. It's 10 years hard work by him. He's made a lot of sacrifices and pursued his dream, and it's his day. We're proud that he and Fernando are part of the team, but they're just such very nice chaps, which makes it so much more enjoyable.
Okay, I don't know if you're referring to your previous drivers there, Ron, but thanks and well done anyway.
It's pretty hard to believe that a 22-year-old on his Formula One debut could run so close to the benchmark driver really in Formula One, Fernando Alonso. As we heard there from Ron Dennis, the strategy favoured Alonso a little bit, which maybe Ron believes Alonso was biding his time, but take nothing away from the performance of Hamilton. To be that close on performance through free practice and qualifying, 2/100ths of a second slower than Alonso on the low fuel quali run, matching him for lap times in the race. Is he your driver of the day?
Well, and don't forget he drilled him down into the first corner as well. His first ever Grand Prix start went round the outside. I think Rosberg, Nico Rosberg, did an extraordinary job today. But if you look at the whole weekend and the race in general, and it's the fact that it's Lewis's debut, you have to give him driver of the day. Just a sensational performance, so exciting for everybody, especially us here on F1 ITV, and an extraordinarily mature performance over the week. He's finished 11 seconds behind Alonso. I'm sure they turned the motor down to save it for the Malaysian Grand Prix, but it bodes well for Lewis. But as I said, Rosberg, I think, did a great job.
The winner, Kimi Räikkönen, accepts the congratulations of Jean Todt, the man who signed him up for Ferrari, saw his talent quite a long way off. He likes Finnish drivers, Jean Todt. Used to work in rallying and developed a passion for Finns at that point. But here is the man they're all talking about. Tomorrow's newspapers, I think, will be full of this guy's face. And it's a face we're going to have to get used to over the next few years, because he is the new star of Formula One. Lewis Hamilton, absolutely amazing performance. We have to keep our feet on the ground because there will be difficult days as well. You cannot simply jump in at this level of Formula One and turn in this kind of performance every time. There'll be mistakes, there'll be some difficult moments, but what an amazing arrival on the Formula One scene. Herbie Blasch there, formerly boss of the Brabham team, now one of the race directors, just leading Jean Todt and Kimi Räikkönen up to the winner's podium.
I think what will bother McLaren is are those fastest laps that Kimi did when he just popped in the 125, low 125s. They were a full second and a half clear of what McLaren were doing at the time. So that's pretty ominous, that pace, but I think McLaren will still be satisfied with a good haul of points. Be interesting to see Alonso's body language on the podium, because he hasn't looked a happy bunny really all weekend, has he? You sense that he feels he's got to change a few things yet before he's going to be optimising his performance. He's still got the job done today though.
It's a very McLaren word, optimising, certainly a word that Ron Dennis uses a lot. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Alonso still not quite found the sweet spot, either with the car or with these Bridgestone tyres. Remember, he had to make this changeover from Michelin's from last year, as did Kimi Räikkönen. And Räikkönen there has his 10th Grand Prix victory. Ferrari winning the final Grand Prix of last year with Massa and the first one of this year with Räikkönen.
That's the happiest we've seen Alonso all weekend. They're standing on a set of scales there just to be weighed with their helmet and gloves, to be added to the weight of the car when it's weighed in Parc Fermé, to make sure it's over 600 kilograms combined. Otherwise they'll get thrown out.
The crowd pours onto the track. As I said before, a huge Italian community here in Melbourne. They love their motor racing. I imagine that's Luca Di Montezemolo, the president of Ferrari, on the telephone. Kimi Räikkönen will give him a few sentences before he goes out onto the podium. Herbie Blasch wants him out there as quickly as possible. It's good to talk, Kimi, but not right now. Let's go. Let's go.
Always a great podium here in Melbourne. The crowd are allowed onto the track, they're underneath the drivers.
tremendous victory for Ferrari and Kimi Raikkonen. Beautiful trophy here, replica of Jack Brabham's steering wheel from the old days, the 60s. Certainly one that all the drivers treasure if they get their hands on one. Insouciant is a good word to describe Kimi Raikkonen. Just has that calmness about him. Just everything just washes over him, doesn't it? Jean Todt picks up where he left off last year. That's an encouraging sign. They may have lost Michael Schumacher and the great Ross Brawn, but they're still finding the winning ways, and they look very, very strong for this year's championship.
You sensed they were struggling with a bit of cooling. We know they had to turn the wick down with their Raikkonen. He was told to cool the engine a bit. And we saw Massa having to get out of the slipstream of the Hondas early on. So you do sense that Ferrari a bit on the edge. Hamilton then, podium for his first Grand Prix. Brilliant.
An amazing achievement. Lewis Hamilton picks up the trophy in his boyhood dreams in the bedroom when he was a kart racer. He would have dreamt of spraying the champagne one day on a Formula 1 podium. It's only the third step at the moment. We are up and running with Formula 1 2007. Ferrari looking very strong, but McLaren have plenty of parts of development on the way. I think it's going to be a great championship. The story of the day, though, no doubt, Lewis Hamilton. He came, he saw, and he matched the world champion on performance. A star is born.